fun is it to actually support your club? Really? Hello, I'm the Irish guy, and lads, I'm gonna rank every Premier League club based on how fun it's actually been to support your team since April 2020. From that strange month when I was using my socks as toilet paper until now, these are the teams that have been really fun to be a fan of. And these are the teams where your loyalty to them has caused you many an afternoon where it feels like you've eaten poisoned Weetabix. Right, let's go. 20th, Man United. Manchester United have had a pretty miserable 5 years. I mean, of course, come on, they finished 3rd, 2nd, 6th, 3rd, 8th, and now even worse, they are about to finish in the bottom half. There's been absolutely no title races. They've lost 7-0 to Liverpool. Ah, come on, what is that? They've let in 6 goals in a Manchester derby again, but they have won 2 cups, okay? Including revenge against Man City in an FA Cup final. That must be ridiculously sweet. Although they also lost an FA Cup final against Man City. That must have been dreadful to stomach. But yeah, they've also finished bottom of a laughably easy Champions League group. They've still not reached 40 points in April. It has been horrendous. I mean, re-signing Cristiano Ronaldo was a cute highlight. But even that was soon spoiled completely to a point where you pretty much had to sack him. Being 4-0 down at halftime against Brentford was complete donkey puke and was the worst first half in the history of your club. I'm sorry, but for the size of Manchester United, yeah, not even that FA Cup win can keep you off bottom spot. 19 Southampton. How much do you think Southampton fans have enjoyed the last 5 years? I would imagine receiving a season ticket at the Saints is probably like being given a Polaroid of your nan squeezing out a poo. Weirdly, after the season resumed in 2020, Southampton actually finished that season really well, going unbeaten in the final 7 league games. They were beating Manchester City with a Che Adams wonder goal. Suddenly, the next 5 years under Ralph Hasenhüttl look bright? No. Instead, they finished bottom of the league twice. Lowlights have included a 6-0 home defeat to Chelsea and losing 9-0 again. And they even got spanked 5-0 in the Championship twice. The first, after a 7-hour trip to Sunderland. That megabus ride home must have stunk of armpit sweat, chicken nuggets and death. The club have also bottled 2 cup semi-finals. Southampton have been absolutely miserable. And this season has been a complete disgrace. Being 5-0 down at home to Tottenham at half time is inexcusable. And less than a month later, Brentford would even discount with a 5-0 win. Look, getting promoted was a cute, fun, little nice moment. That playoff final win over Leeds at Wembley is the only reason I haven't put them bottom of this list. But yeah, I'd imagine that was a brilliant afternoon. But overall, Nathan Jones, Russell Martin, Ivan Juric. This has been a disgusting 5 years. 18th, Tottenham. Yeah, Tottenham have had a pretty gruesome 5 years too. Go back to April 2020. It had been less than a year since Spurs were in a Champions League final. They now had the special one at the wheel and arguably the best striker in the world. And their very own Amazon Doc. Since then, Mourinho was stupidly fired days before a cup final which they lost. Antonio Conte came in to scream at his players so much, it probably shaved 4 years off his life. They lost 6-1 at Newcastle, bottled North London derbies. Kane quit for Bayern Munich. They've only qualified for the Champions League once since then, where they were dumped out by an average AC Milan. They still haven't won a trophy and are now about to finish at the bottom half of the league for the first time since 2008. Being a Spurs fan right now must be grim. If any of those supporters were offered this back in 2020, they would have probably preferred if you had told them they were on course to marry their sister instead. 17th, Wolves. Boy, between 2015 and 2020, Wolves were having a whale of a time. Their European adventure under Nuno Santo, that must have been so surreal. Look at any Wolves fan back in 2018, and they probably look like some chubby comic book nerd who had just been told that Hugh Jackman was coming around for tea. They'd be so excited, they'd probably get sick in the soup. And yeah, Wolves were brilliant, but since April 2020, it's like the fans have woken up and realized that it was all a fever dream. And now they're back in reality, sitting in bed, clutching their teddy bear and covered in last night's 2 AM Cocoa Pops. They've since lost a Europa League quarter-final, which was completely ruined by just being given a weird one-legged match against Sevilla in the middle of a German car park. Raul Jimenez missed a penalty, and Sevilla snatched an 88th minute winner, as the Wolves fans helplessly sat at home on their couch. That must have been horrible. Not being allowed to even go to a European quarter-final. It's like someone telling you that Eminem is performing in your back garden. But oh no, you have to stay in your bedroom, eating cheese puffs and begging your hamster for a kiss. They have been unstable, going through plenty of managers, consistently playing horrendous football. I mean, 5 years ago, they had European dreams. Since then, losing 4-0 at home to the likes of Burnley and Leicester, getting slapped 6-0 by Brighton. They've lost most of their stars and had to put up with a managerial pancake like Gary O'Neill. So it's been a really dull and boring 5 years. They've just turned into another Stoke. 16th, Leicester City. Being relegated is horrible. Being relegated twice in 3 seasons, that must be about as painful as seeing your evil grandma feed your teddy bear to a giraffe at the zoo. Back in April 2020, it was actually unthinkable that Leicester would go down because, you know, they were 3rd in the Premier League. Yes, 3rd. Do you think Nottingham Forest fans would accept 2 Premier League relegations by 2030? No, those fans would sooner lick baby sick off a rug. What's this then? Leicester have bottled Champions League qualification twice. 2 seasons on the bounce, slumping to 5th. They then lost a Conference League semi-final against Roma. And then the relegations have been grisly beyond belief. It's about 13 defeats in 14 league games. No goals scored in months. This is a club who only 6 years ago won 8 Premier League matches in a row, including 1 by 9 goals. Since then, it's been unspeakably bad. But the reason I'm not chucking them dead last in this list is because they have won the FA Cup and the Community Shield. That FA Cup win is an all-time moment. Yuri Tielemans belting that stunning goal past Chelsea is arguably the 2nd greatest moment in the club's history. So, I don't know, for that one afternoon alone that made Gary Lineker cry, I'll be nice and stick you 16th. 15th, Everton. For a club who literally had Carlo Ancelotti in charge 5 years ago. Then yeah, since then, it's been a mediocre slugfest. He's since gone on to win a bunch more Champions Leagues, but the Toffees have finished 12th, 10th, 16th, 17th, 15th, and are now 15th again. I mean, they've annoyed the fans by appointing a Liverpool legend. Honestly, seeing Rafa Benitez holding up an Everton scarf, that must be a bit like seeing your school bully now getting off with your mum in a Burger King loo. They've since had points deductions, relegation battles, were so nearly relegated, they've had to endure terrible football, and yeah, I know, Moyes is doing well now. But I mean, tell any Everton fan back when they appointed actual Ancelotti, the single most exciting managerial appointment in the history of that club, that, oh no, 5 years later, they'd have wrinkly old Moyes back. Oh, that's pretty yuck. The only reason I'm not sticking you in the bottom 3 is because you have actually beaten Liverpool twice. That's gotta be fun. But then again, you're also gonna watch Liverpool win the Premier League title twice. Oh no. 14th, Crystal Palace. It's the same. The last 5 years for Crystal Palace have been the exact same as the previous 5 years. It's been 14th, 14th, 12th, 11th, 10th. Palace are astonishingly consistently boring. They have put up points totals in the 40s every single year since they got promoted back in 2013. Look, it has been prettier football than the Roy Hodgson stuff. I mean, last season's explosion with the likes of Olise and Eze playing under Oliver Glasner between April and May. Those 7 incredible games were the best football Palace fans have ever seen. I mean, the fact they briefly got to witness the rise of Olise, a player even better than Zaha, that alone has probably been pretty saucy. 13th, Fulham. Has this been a good 5 years for Fulham? I don't know, because it started with a miracle championship playoff final win over a quality Brentford team, which caused me to celebrate like an epileptic elephant, but they then got embarrassingly relegated under Scott Parker, playing some of the worst football known to mankind. I mean, they were 2 points better off than the previous Fulham side who went down in 2019, but they were still woefully awful. 2 home wins all season against the other 2 teams that went down with them. Thankfully, there were no fans allowed in Craven Cottage, or the season ticket holders would have absolutely got sick in their chips. But in comes Marco Silva. They win the championship title with 90 points, scoring over 100 goals. Those fans witnessed 3 different 7-0 wins that season, and they've been flying in the Prem. 10th, 13th, and at the minute, they're trying to squeak back into Europe again. So I don't know. The last 4 years have been brilliant, but overall, it has been diluted by that awful 2021 campaign. Overall, I'll have to put you 13th. 12th, Arsenal. Has the last 5 years really been fun for Arsenal fans? Has it? Because since 2020, you've won as many trophies as Leicester City. 1 FA Cup and 1 Community Shield. That's it. Since 2020, you finished 8th twice in a row. You painfully missed out on Champions League football when you finished 5th, and you're about to finish 2nd in the league 3 years on the trot. That's not fun. Yes, the title challenges are back, and the football is great, but no team in the world thinks finishing 2nd 3 years in a row is success. They have put all their eggs in the title race basket, so much so that they haven't even reached the cup final since that wacky empty summer of 2020. Maybe I'm being harsh, but surely this has just been 5 years of total agonizing frustration for Arsenal fans. They don't win nothing? 11th, Bournemouth. Again, like Fulham, it's been a mixed bag because 2020 saw Bournemouth painfully relegated. I mean, for the club to lose Eddie Howe, seeing him departing on Twitter, as there are no fans allowed on the ground to actually say goodbye to a club legend, that's gotta have been awful. And then having to sack his lovable old chum Jason Tyndall as manager, that can't have been a barrel of laughs because he was your last connection to Eddie. It's like having to throw out your dead wife's shoes and losing in the championship playoffs against Brentford with Jonathan Woodgate at the wheel would have been hideous. And then the next year being pipped at the championship title by Fulham would have stung a little bit. And then your your first month back in the Premier League. Scott Parker basically saying in public his squad don't have enough quality to stay up after getting walloped 9-0 at Anfield. That afternoon would have been bleak. A bit like seeing your mum choking on sausage roll. But ever since Andoni Iraola was appointed in 2023, it has been beautiful. I remember the 6 wins from 7 games around Christmas of that year. The football has been stunning. It's been a mixed 5 years, but overall, 11th Brighton. Look, I always said I never thought the Graham Potter era was up to much. But look, the De Zerbi era was fun, really fun. Finishing 6th in the league was unheard of. Battering both Chelsea and Liverpool. They've beaten Manchester United regularly for fun. And a first ever Europa League campaign must have been a dream. Famous nights beating Ajax and Marseille. But there has been a couple of painful moments. I mean, the worst has to have been crashing out in an FA Cup semi-final to Manchester United, 7-6 on penalties. That must have felt horrible. So overall, I'll put you 10th. 9th, Chelsea. It seems mental to stick Chelsea as low as 9th, considering since 2020, they've won the Champions League and the FIFA Club World Cup. Sure, but don't tell me that Champions League win was not anticlimactic. It was played in front of 14,000 people. You'd get a bigger turnout at a KSI fight. It made the atmosphere sound like an awkward Chris MD meet and greet. And it also came just a few weeks after the club had snuck off to join the Super League. I don't think the connection with the fans was the best. Look, the 18 months of Thomas Tuchel was brilliant. But other than that year and a half, it's been a pretty wretched 5 years for the club. They lost 3 FA Cup finals on the bounce and 2 League Cup finals to a bunch of Liverpool's kids. They spent £1 billion and still finished a ridiculous 12th in the league. I've never seen a Chelsea team be as bad as they were in 2023. 44 points. I've seen clubs get relegated with just 2 points less. There's been so many awful big money transfers, 0 title races. Yeah, you became champions of Europe, but other than that, it's been 5 years of squirrel puke. 8th, West Ham. You know what? Considering where West Ham were in April 2020, perched just above the relegation zone, and I think the last 5 years have been largely fantastic. Finishing 6th and 7th, losing a Europa League semi-final against Eintracht Frankfurt looked rough, because lads, they would have set up a winnable final against Rangers. Those fans could literally taste that trophy. So when they got booted up by the Germans, yeah, Declan Rice looked like he wanted to eat the referee's face. But hey, you won the Conference League next season, your first ever European trophy with the last minute winner in the final. That must have been bananas. Look, finishing 9th last season was decent. I mean, it's been horrendous ever since Moisey left. And yeah, getting dumped by Rice was probably no picnic. But I would say overall, it's been a good 5 years. 7th, Liverpool. It seems crazy to only put Liverpool 7th. But lads, go back to April 2020. The Reds were a monster, 25 points clear at the top of the table. By a mile, the best team in the world, considering they were also reigning European champs with a FIFA Club World Cup trophy in their pockets. The best football team on the planet. Tell any Liverpool fan back then that they'd have to wait 5 years for an actual Premier League bus parade? Oh, no. That would be a failure. Sure, they've since won an FA Cup and 2 League Cups, although would also lose a final against Newcastle. Come on, it's been a painful 5 years. On course for a quadruple in 2022. But they lose the title on the final day after Man City came from 2-0 down to beat Stevie G's Aston Villa. Lads, it was the perfect script. Gerrard was finally going to win the Premier League title for Liverpool. Coutinho had just put Villa 2-0 up at the Etihad. Reds redemption for both? No, that was completely spoiled. And they also lost the Champions League final against Real Madrid again. I mean, there's been 2 seasons where they haven't even stuck 70 points on the board, even finishing outside the top 4 in 2023. And oh yeah, that penalty shootout against PSG in the Champions League this season, that must have tasted like bumblebee soup. Honestly, I think the last 5 years for Liverpool have been more painful than not. 6th, Brentford. I know it's crazy to stick Brentford above a team who've literally won the Champions League since then, but Chelsea have experienced a Champions League win before. Brentford had never ever experienced promotion to the Prem, but they did it. After bottling it in 2020, they eventually beat Bournemouth and Swansea in the 21 playoffs, in a season where Ivan Toney scored a bonkers 31 goals. Then they stay up 4 seasons on the bounce, even finishing top half in 2023. They've beaten local rivals Chelsea for fun. There's barely been a low point. The last 4 years have been a complete dream. 5th, Ipswich Town. Ipswich Town were such an irrelevance in Premier League circles. They were so far down the English football pyramid in 2020 that their League One season was fully cancelled in March. They were going nowhere under Paul Lambert, and it's crazy. Back in 2020, he had signed a new 5-year contract with the club, despite getting them relegated in the first place. If contracts were binding, then this grumpy grandpa would still be Ipswich boss now? Scary. But no, he goes, in comes McKenna, and then 2 promotions on the bounce. Over the course of 2 seasons, they stuck 194 points on the board, scoring 193 goals, winning 56 games between 2022 and 2024, a complete dream. This season has been bad. They've lost nearly every game since, and are now getting relegated without a fuss, so that hasn't been fun. But overall, 5th, 4th, Nottingham Forest. It's been mixed. Back in 2020, Nottingham Forest bottled the championship promotion, somehow finishing outside the playoff spots after being in them all year. That would have been painful, but since then, the explosion of relief after that Wembley playoff final win against Huddersfield in 2021, one of the greatest nights in the club's history. And lads, they've won the Champions League twice. But then, the Premier League was rough. Yeah, they stayed up 2 seasons in a row, but come on. 16th, 17th, losing 38 games across those 2 seasons? That cannot have been fun. But now, they're 3rd in the league and closing in on the Europa League. Like, it's crazy. 3rd, Man City. Man City have won the treble since 2024, Premier League titles in a row and a Champions League win. Amazing, absolutely stunning, but this season has been absolutely brutal. So overall, I'm only putting you 3rd. 2nd, Aston Villa. Back in April 2020, Aston Villa were 2nd bottom of the league. They were not Premier League material. Tell any Villa fan back then that they would stay up on the final day, then thump the champions 7-2, then finish 11th, 14th, 7th and 4th. Tell them they'd hire one of the greatest managers in the world, would reach a European semi-final, would beat Bayern Munich, and so very nearly Juventus, would polish off those 5 years with a looming Champions League quarter-final against PSG, and would be at Crystal Palace away from an FA Cup final. Now yes, Jack Grealish would be sold for £100 million, but guess what? You'd actually become better than ever without him. That would be a major shock. These last 5 years for Aston Villa, considering how rubbish they looked in 2020, what a dream! First, Newcastle United. Lads, when I made this video in 2019, both Aston Villa and Newcastle were in the bottom 3. Miserable. Not anymore. These last 5 years have been stonkingly special. Newcastle were rubbish 5 years ago this month. The season had frozen with them sitting 13th in the league, with ketchup dribbling down Steve Bruce's chin. The club was lost, so average. That season, they needed replays to see off Rochdale and Oxford in the FA Cup. Since then, the club get a dream mega money takeover overnight. They pull off a great escape from relegation, would win a Premier League match 8-0 away from home, would be 5-0 up against Spurs after 20 minutes, would sign world-class ballers, would reach the Champions League, thump PSG, get a draw at AC Milan. They'd been to Wembley twice, winning the 2nd cup final against the best team in England. Their first domestic trophy for 70 years, prompting a 300,000 people bus parade. I never thought I would say this, but the last 5 years, Newcastle United have been the most fun team to support in the Prem. Absolutely amazing. From Steve Bruce to this? I can't believe it. Anyway, that's the let me know, what do you think? Let me know, who is the most fun club to support in your... Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, share, and ways. I'll talk shit a while.